Hello and welcome to What Culture. I'm Josh, joined today by Ash because we're here to bring you something a little bit different. As you might know, there are a few horror remakes coming out this year, and one of them is bound to be better than the other. No, I'm not talking about Halloween. I know that looks awesome too, but actually, Dario Argento Suspiria is getting a remake by the guy who did last year's Call Me By Your Name, which was an Oscar contender. And although it had a really, really great trailer, there isn't too much buzz about this movie sort of in the mainstream. So we thought we'd give you reasons about why you should be excited for this, because the release date is November 2nd, and it is very different from the original, which is one of my favourite movies of all time. So Ash, would you like to take us away of why we need to be hyped for this?
So, it is going to be different to the original, as Josh mentioned, because it's going to have a much more muted colour palette, so it's offering something different, and I think the director said it was more about a homage to the emotions he felt when he watched the first film, rather than a straight remake, so that is comforting to begin with, as they can't remake Suspiria, in any way, effectively, without changing it up a little bit.
I suppose it's interesting the way people are sort of approaching these horror properties now. Although I mentioned that Halloween is a remake in the intro, it's actually a sequel to the first movie. It's kind of, sort of like a soft reboot in that fashion, whereas this is not a straight remake of the original Suspiria, but rather, like you said, a homage to the emotions that the director felt when he saw the movie for the first time, which is great. It's just no, I'm making this really personal to me. I think it's an interesting way to go about it, because in the past we've seen remakes like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, even like last year's Flatliners stick really close to the original material when there is scope to bring something so fresh to the project, I think.
And they've been a bit as well.
And they haven't been very good, have they? No. And I think this year could be the year that it's ushered in where horror remakes can be done really well in fresh and unique ways. And Suspiria looks like that, like you said. The colour palette is different, so it's already getting rid of established things, but the new wintry look of it is sort of really spooky. I'm sure we'll get into the score next. Goblin's score was seminal, it's iconic, it's related to the original movie, and that's been sort of chucked out in favour of Tom York's kind of more muted, definitely less flamboyant score, but that still sounds really good, and there is shades of Goblin in there in the trailer. I think you might maybe agree. I don't know, what do you think this is how they should sort of approach it? That's what I'd say.
Yes, because they're obviously taking the more muted approach with the colours, with the music, and then they're bringing up the gore and the scariness in the actual visuals. So it's they're playing off the two different parts of it, and Tom York is a perfect person to do this sort of weird Blade Runner inspired music to make it low-key spooky rather than goblin spooky, which is with all of the xylophones going off. I don't know, synths,
xylophones, the same thing, more or less. I suppose even in the setting itself, because it's still set in 1977, which was actually the year the original movie came out, and it's got a Berlin setting, so it's still sort of it's got that strange sort of feel to it, that throwback aesthetic we even saw in the trailer, with the way the title font is even portrayed. That's very, very in line with the original movie. So it's clear that they're taking cues from it, yet not sort of being a slave to that aesthetic. And I think the most interesting thing, like you said, the way it looks is sort of muted, and it looks very kind of very taughty, one of those. It's not really a horror movie, it's a movie about emotion. But then we learned last night this is going to be a hard R rated, ridiculously gruesome and violent. I think one of the stars, Dakota Johnson, said she actually needed therapy when she stopped filming it, which is wild. So it's cool that they're sort of taking that more muted approach perhaps to the aesthetics, but they're just ramping up the gore, because the original was wild in that regard, as all Dario Argento films are, which is cool. There is apparently a scene in it that was shown off before the trailer came out, with Dakota Johnson doing a little ballet dance, and apparently with every move it was sort of intercut with somebody's body being contorted in horrible ways, and that freaks me out personally. I hate that stuff, especially in exorcism films, where the body's just going all over. It's just, maybe I've just got some weird little things that I just don't like, unresolved issues. I'm not sure.
There's that one scene in the trailer where it's literally just someone floating up a door. That was horrible. Just that one bit, I was ugh. And then hearing the Variety description where it was every time they were breaking down, it was urine, spittle, blood, and guts or something like that. Urine and spittle was specified, so it's obviously not very nice.
Brilliant. What else do you need in a movie, I guess? So it's been officially rated R for disturbing content involving ritualistic violence, bloody images, not just one, and graphic nudity. So it sounds like, you know, they're fully embracing like the source material with this, which is it's good to see, especially in like an era of, like we said, horror movie remakes usually err on the side of PG-13 or like 12/15s and go down a more supernatural route. Whereas this looks like it has that, like you said in the trailer, like the person like floating up like the banister and stuff. It's got that sort of inherent spookiness to it with the kind of ridiculous gore that you expect, and usually it's one or the other, and this is sort of mashed it together a little bit, like Hereditary. I don't think you've actually seen that yet.
No, I'm going to see it this weekend.
Everyone needs to see it. I love that. But obviously that was divisive, and I hope Suspiria isn't divisive in the same way, but it should nail a sort of similar tone. I think it's been a good year for horror in general.
No, I think so too. Like with A Quiet Place and Hereditary, and there's been some other like surprise ones coming through. There was that Nicolas Cage film, which was like Mom and Dad at the beginning of the year as well.
That, but it looked really good.
Loads of weird, like, everything's going off in different directions after last year with like Get Out and It and that, everything coming to the forefront. So I think it's giving people loads of creative freedom to do cool stuff like this, and this will be cool. I'm very confident it will be cool.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. I think last year, especially like you said with It and Get Out, that sort of really opened the door and proved that horror was kind of healthier than ever, especially like mainstream horror, because not only, you know, horror's never like stopped making money, but it's never sort of lacked the critical recognition that the movies last year received, and I think it's opened the door to sort of your Hereditaries, your Quiet Places, your Halloweens, your Suspirias this year, which is really, really exciting. And hopefully, for me, I want to see Suspiria succeed, because I know a lot of people, when they love like a horror movie, they go into it being like, I don't want this tarnishing the original, but I like to see what sort of filmmakers can bring to like something you love, because it doesn't get rid of the original. You know, that's still there. And if anything, if it's bad, it encourages people to go back and see the first one.
I know Dario Argento himself. This was a couple of years ago when it was first being announced that Luca Guadagnino was making it.
Yes.
He was very not happy about it because people hadn't been talking to him, and he was like, "You can't remake my film because this is how it is, and if you do a straight remake, then there's no point. And if you change it, it doesn't need to be changed because of the tone of the film." But from the tone of the trailers, I would say they've captured that weird, spooky, supernatural vibe.
Definitely.
And will hopefully do some credit to it. So hopefully Argento will be like, hey, thank you. So.
I suppose that's like in direct contrast to the way John Carpenter's gone about like the Halloween sequel. He's just like, no, come on, I'll come score it. You can do it. Anyone can come in, you know, just as long as it's good. Interestingly, David Gordon Green, who's directing the Halloween film, was originally attached to make Suspiria, so he just apparently loves old horror movies, which is great because you wouldn't really get that from his movies. But yes, excellent. I guess the final point of why you should be excited for Suspiria, though, is just, have you seen the trailer?
Watch
the trailer is very, very good. It's so confident in the way it doesn't really need any dialogue. It doesn't need to tell you what it's about, because although we're assuming that it's a remake, it has a lot in common. You know, it's about a dance school, like a supernatural goings-on. We don't actually know if this is going to follow the plot of that movie like straight. It hasn't really been revealed. It's sort of being kept a secret, and I think shows a lot of confidence to come out in that trailer and just be like, look at all this spooky imagery. You don't need to know what's going on. Just be scared, please. Be scared.
So there is something about the themes of the film being about the uncompromising force of motherhood. So that is slightly different to the original as well, but plays into it's like obviously a very female-heavy film from the dance school. And I think they're playing into that more, and maybe playing into more female themes in this one as well, because there aren't many guys in the trailer, like.
No, I can't remember even a single one. I'm probably missing someone. But yeah, obviously it's a very female-driven movie, as a lot of like sort of recent horror movies have delved into that kind of like aspect of motherhood. Perhaps most notably Mother, which was just kind of outrageous. But then of course, like we said, Hereditary jumps into those same themes. So like that's a very ripe area for sort of like horror to go down, and a very current area, I think, if you want to sort of get that audience in. Like a lot of other movies are doing that, and to sort of. Those themes were kind of present in the original, but that was more about like sort of sisterhood and like the way where like women come together and like against like the kind of their like matriarchs who are like overseeing and very ominous, and to sort of explore that relationship in the sequel would be very cool. That's a very interesting quote. This guy's like I think he knows what he's talking about. You know, he's not about like the emotional power of the first time I watched it. He's not about like these themes. Yeah, obviously it's his first horror movie though, so there might not be the confidence there in him to like make something really great, but obviously he has the pedigree. Call Me By Your Name was really good. It didn't sweep up at the Oscars like many thought it would, but even like the big splash, he's very good about getting to like the core of like relationships and stuff like that, the emotional core of things. And if you can bring that to a movie that's got ridiculous scares and ridiculous gore, it sounds like the full package to me, and I think we're really excited for it. But that's why we think you should be hyped for Suspiria going in to November 2nd. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Will it be the horror film of the year, or will Hereditary and Halloween beat it out? As always, I've been Josh.
I've been Ash.
And we'll see you soon. Bye.